The audio sounds great.
It does. It sounds a lot better.
I want to make a joke, but I guess it's not the time.
You want to what?
I'd like to make a joke, but it's not the time.
You've run out of time. It's almost 7 o'clock. Going to be on the record if you make it.
Short one.
Next time. I was gonna say, it ought to sound good for $80 million.
Okay, ready to go, Cindy?
Ready.
Okay. Call to order the Saugatuck Planning Commission meeting of the 21st of October, 2021 at 7 p.m. Ask, Cindy to call the roll, please.
Mans,
Here.
Van Meter,
Here.
Peterson. Here. Crawford.
Here.
Gardner.
Here.
Fox.
Here.
Gaunt. Here. We have a quorum.
Thank you. I forgot last time to mention that you need to silence your cell phones during the meeting and avoid using them lest one or all of us be accused of violating the Open Meetings Law Act, whatever it's called. So let me do that to mine before it goes off while I'm talking. I'll entertain a motion regarding approval of the agenda, tonight's agenda.
Move to approve the agenda. I'll second.
Any discussion? I doubt.
Voice vote.
Voice vote.
We can
All in
use the
favor
voice
of
vote.
approving the agenda? Say,
Aye.
indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Agenda is approved. Entertain a motion for approval of the minutes of the last meeting on September 16th, 2021.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the minutes of September 16th, 2021 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is this a voice vote too, Cindy?
Yep.
Any discussion before we go forward? Those indicating approval of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Fourth item on the agenda is public comment on agenda items only. Those comments need to be limited to 3 minutes. If there's anyone who wants to speak now, please approach the podium, direct the comments to the chair. State your name and address or your name and city of residence. No one on Zoom? Do we have to wait for an extended period of time for Zoom to weigh in or no? Can you tell?
Not seeing any hands raised.
Fair enough. Close the public comment unless
Someone's running, yeah. Who might?
I'll extend it. Simon, we have public comment open, extended for you if you want to make a comment, limited to 3 minutes at this point. Counting this time against you. Is that a no? Do you want to comment or not? No, gentleman behind you. Yeah. Any, about anything that's on the agenda. We kept it open because you were coming up the stairs and we didn't want to close you out. That's all right. Okay. Fair enough. We'll move on to the first item under new business, which is a public hearing regarding creating condominiums and out of existing tenant spaces at 133 Butler. The public hearing goes as follows. I'll call it to order. Zoning administrator will summarize the application. The applicant is able to make a presentation of his own. We'll again take public comments related to the application in the same process as before, although they're limited to 5 minutes within the public hearing instead of 3. And if there are multiple comments, we'll take supporting comments first, opposing comments second, and general comments third. There will be a repeat comment opportunity as well. We'll have the public, I'll close the public comments section of the hearing. The commission will deliberate in public, and then the commission will act on the request, and we will then close that public hearing, and tonight open another one on something else. So with that, the public hearing on the application regarding 133 Butler Street is hereby opened. Cindy?
This is an application to condoize an existing building. The applicant has informed me that he plans no exterior changes and no changes to the floor plan. It will remain the same. The building will be the same. The use will be the same. The only difference will be in the ownership. We did get, photos and a site plan. This will be two commercial tenant spaces and 3 residential condo spaces. And it also includes condoizing the parking area. So the rest of it is in your packet. The conditions, I did not include them in this PowerPoint because they seem to be kind of irrelevant. There's no change to anything. So in your packet, you might see that I did put the conditions in there with their highlighted, no change, no change, no change, no change, no change. So I would turn it over to the applicant if they would like to expound on that.
Fair enough.
Oh, I'm sorry, I got it backwards.
Right.
You want to step up to the podium? State your name and address, please.
Okay, name is Shimon Nissim, CNS Properties. And I'm the owner of the building, and I would like to condo the units, so we'll be able to sell some of them and keep operating our retail units and one condo that we add. So it's really to make our mortgage easier by condo minimizing the units and get rid of the units that we are supposedly have tenants with, and rather sell them and reduce our mortgage payments, our mortgage in general. So there's no changes to any structure, to anything. The building will stay the same. The units will stay as same. We're not going to knock any walls or do any constructions, just want to separate the units to 5. Again, separate.
Any direct questions for the applicant from the commission?
Mr. Chairman, I have one. Hi, the dedicated parking lots, one goes to each, dedicated parking, one goes to each of the units.
Yes, there are 5 parkings. Yeah, 1 for each unit.
Thank you.
How do you access the parking there?
Through the back, between, from Culver Street, between Bodis and the Irish pub.
Okay,
Go through
this
the
keeps
back,
right
yeah.
on going.
Yes, all the way to the end. Yeah.
Does the building currently have 5 electric meters?
Yes,
So there's no change on that either?
no, everything is, yeah. Each unit is its own meter for everything already.
So it's really only an ownership structure that you're changing.
Exactly. To open a new HOA, condominiumize, how you call it? Just the legal part to make each unit individual, and then we can sell. Start with the back office and the one condo and see where it goes.
So you're currently in a tenant landlord situation.
I'm sorry?
So you're currently in a tenant landlord situation and you want
I'm
to.
the landlord of the
Yeah,
whole building,
right.
and yes, I do have tenant for 2 units.
Yep.
I'm,
And then-
we and my ex, we run the retail units, and I live in one condo.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We are open now for public comment regarding the application. If you wish to make a public comment, come to the podium there and we'll talk. Anything online?
I don't see any hands raised, but if somebody wants to unmute themselves and make a public comment, now would be the time.
That a raised thumb?
I saw the thumb.
Did you see a hand?
The thumb went up.
It's a thumb, but I think it was just adjusting his monitor or something. For the audience's benefit, this is our first experience with this, so. And Cindy's doing a hell of a job. All right, I'm going to close the public comment section then, there being no public comments. And I will close that public comment and open comment and discussion from the planning commission.
It's not exactly under our purview, but does this present any particular issues? I won't say problems, but in terms of the city having to, kind of in the financially, the assessors department or anything like that? How does that all get taken care of?
The assessors just follow the condo documents. Building permits and zoning permits can be a little complicated if you don't know what unit you're talking about. But we have a lot of these and we are able to manage it. The fire department gets a little bit concerned when a fire panel or a sprinkler system goes through two different condos and they might have to trespass into another condo space to access it. But like I said, we have a lot of them and we're able to manage it.
Speaking of that, did I not note somewhere in the application, is there some type of a sprinkler system in this? Is there I shouldn't probably. Mhm.
So the first floor has fire suppression? Okay.
I'm just wondering if this would require a review by the fire department or?
No, it's just a change of ownership, no change.
Well, in terms of the, any changes or potential changes in the fire suppression system or anything like that? No? We want it to work. And I would imagine you do too, so.
Anyone else? Any other questions?
I would almost think, I'm sorry, I would almost have to think that would have to be in the condo documents though, that, and who reviews those? Does the city get to?
They're prepared by the applicant's attorney,
Mhm.
and the city does get to review those at the assessing level. But since there's no change to the structure, there's no building code requirements
Right.
that change, no fire department.
It's just that one would think in the condo documents that what you might call common elements, that the sprinkler system and that whole fire suppression system would be in the common elements shared by all and also not to be touched probably by each individual person. I mean, and messed with.
That's pretty standard.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I do have a question for the applicant. Mr. Nassim, is that right? Is that how you pronounce your last name? Are those 5 parking spots, are they deeded to the individual owners or are they dedicated to the property? They're dedicated to the property, but so for instance, if I own the front retail unit, I get one spot and it's deeded, a very specific spot. Do you know?
But each unit will have
Okay, so it'll be deeded within the, okay. And then the second question is kind of what around what Commissioner Crawford was asking is, my assumption is that the attorney is going to be using, I'm assuming the state of Michigan has a standard condominium bylaw and declaration document that will be used as a guide. So it should considerably have this type of information specific to the property about, easement to fire suppression and making sure that it doesn't create a safety issue.
Right.
So I would assume that the attorney's following that.
That's correct.
I was gonna say I don't know that it makes any difference, but I'm not clear whether those parking spaces are actually deeded or if they are simply designated. And as I say, I don't think it makes a lot of difference, but I don't want to proceed along with the public record saying they're deeded when we don't know for a fact they are actually deeded. I mean, there's,
Condo document is a kind of a deed, so.
well, condo document's a deed, but if it describes, it'll describe what's being deeded, whether it's just the building space or
Right.
what's common, what's deeded, what's not. And again, just for information, that should be clear, or at least we shouldn't project as though it's clear if we're not clear.
Yeah, and the reason I asked the question is as a former condo owner, we had a spot that was deeded to our unit, and that was for our exclusive use. And so when we sold the condominium, the space went with it. Why it became important for us is because if we just had one dedicated spot, someone could be parking in your spot and create an issue. So that's the reason I asked the question, to make sure that the owners understand, okay, I'm deeded with that spot, that's mine. And then if it's allowed to actually, and I don't even know if we have any around here, but the car sharing service,
Well,
I don't even know if that's
Kinda.
even, but that was a kind of a big issue where I came from. So, but that's the reason for my question, was just to,
Yes, we have another property with the deeded parking spaces that's at 129 Griffith Street, the Muse Building. Those parking spaces are deeded to the. to
and the other
owners
reason I
of
know, the other reason I know that is if they're deeded, you can, as the condo owner, you can rent those out.
correct. Yeah, exactly.
For clarification, then, do we want to put some type of condition in place or make sure that it's identified one way or the other?
I don't think it's our place to do that,
Okay.
but
If you're buying.
it needs to be,
condos,
clear for who's ever buying the condos, exactly what
Exactly.
they're getting. And like I say, I just didn't want us to make it appear we
Yeah,
thought
it's
one way or
our
the other. whatever it is.
responsibility to do the buyer's due diligence. So.
Yeah.
Whether they're designated or deeded, that's up to the seller, what's their preference.
Okay.
Good.
Anything else for our deliberations? I will entertain a motion for action on the application.
Mr. Chairman,
Sir,
I hereby move to approve the application to create condominium units as shown on the attached application. The above comments as discussed. I don't think we have any comments to be discussed incorporated, right? We do.
Yes, please.
Okay. The above comments as discussed are to be incorporated into the record and adopted as part of our findings of fact. Condition upon no exterior change and no change to floor plans. Okay, sorry.
You want to put the address in? 'Cause we just said-
Yeah, I'm reading the wrong one. I move to conditionally approve the site plan, including the plans and supplemental materials provided by the applicant for property located at 133 Butler Street, conditioned upon no exterior change and no change to the floor plans.
Second.
motion by Peterson, second by Mike Van Meter. This is a roll call vote, correct?
Nope.
We don't do those anymore?
Roll call votes usually, David, for site plan approvals.
It's to the discretion of the commission.
Yeah, it's up to the chairperson really, but
Let's go with a voice vote. It's easier. Those in favor of approving, or those in favor of the motion as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Application is approved. So I close that public hearing and promptly open another one. Public hearing on the two-story patio at 40 Butler Street. The public hearing will follow the same sequence as we just used, beginning with the summary by our consultant. Oh, and I forgot to introduce, but I'll get to that at the end. Sorry.
Good evening.
So you have to
planning-
stay around to the end to hear
I
who
was
everybody.
wondering who the heck he was.
Sorry.
Good evening,
Yeah.
Planning Commission members. My name is David Drossik. I'm from Horizon Community Planning. I'm a newly hired planning consultant on call for any planning and zoning needs city staff may have. So I did help out with the review of 40 Butler, and I'll give a brief presentation for your in advance of the public hearing tonight. So we did receive an application from the Redwater Group for special land use and site plan for a new building at the Butler Restaurant site. The property is zoned C2 WSS, and it's just under a half acre in size. Staff considers this building to be kind of a principal use collective along with the existing building. So it's an extension of the commercial restaurant use of the site. And this is considered to be a special land use within the zoning district. As such, it does require the hearing this evening. So the proposal is an open air building concept. It is a two-story structure, and it's essentially open on three sides, with one side having the enclosed space, the restrooms and storage area. The upper floor is open on all four sides. So this building will be replacing some of the existing decking as well as the gazebo on the site. There are 312 seats proposed for the two stories, and there will be some patio space around the building as well that will accommodate extra seating, which will not be covered by the roof. The footprint of the building is just over 2,600 square feet, and the total square footage is just over 5,300 square feet. And the building is 31 feet at its peak, so that's a foot under the maximum requirement for the district. So concerning our review, the requirements and standards which apply to this application, it's subject to a couple of key sections of city code. First, chapter 152 is the historic district. So they did have to go through the Historic District Commission for a certificate of appropriateness. We have to review this against our general dimensional standards in the zoning ordinance, site plan review standards, special land use standards, and then specific requirements for outdoor seating. So we did provide a lengthy staff report and provided a number of findings in review comments on the standards and requirements. I won't walk through the entire report, but maybe hit some of the highlights. Concerning the historic review, it did receive a certificate of appropriateness. Staff did note that there were some potential minor changes to the exterior building materials, the barrier around the second floor, and I think the siding. So, and also there are some short pole-mounted light fixtures that I don't believe were on the original plans that the HDC reviewed. So if those changes are to be move forward with, they would have to go back to the HDC for another certificate of appropriateness. Concerning the dimensional requirements, those were satisfied. So your setbacks, your height requirements, lot coverage, and so on. We do have a short zoning compliance table within the report and on the screen now. As you're aware, this district does not require on-site parking, so that parking requirements are exempt for this area. Next, just concerning the setbacks, the side setback is only, it's 10 feet for this district, and the building will be 32 feet from the property line. So there will be some separation between the shared property line with Cook Park. So the building is not being, the building envelope is not being maximized, that they are leaving some open lawn space so that there'll be a better views into the park area as well as views into the waterfront area from the public right of way. So they certainly are not maximizing the development potential and leaving some extra room and open space on the site. The open sides of the building, at least on the first floor, are more oriented toward the I think the north, west, and south. So there are some residential structures to the east. So there may be some noise associated with the amplified music or just general activity, but most of the activity will be oriented away from nearby residential units. And the proposal, in our opinion, was generally consistent with the master plan's guidance for the commercial and waterfront area. In those primary points were to preserve access to the waterfront, preserve views of the water, and actually encourage views of the water. So this will have additional outdoor seating for folks, visitors, tourists, and your residents to be able to enjoy the waterfront and enjoy their meals there. So the master plan did call for this to be a major center for commercial tourist activities, which we believe this building will be in support of that. So overall, staff was generally supportive of this application. There were several conditions for you to consider on the last page of the report. So if the planning commission was supportive of this proposal, you may consider those conditions. First would be the HDC review of any changes to building materials or lighting. So if they do in fact propose changes, they would need to go back. Second, fire department review, which I believe that was secured today or
Got
this
that
week.
morning, so that item is satisfied.
Number three would be an easement to ensure public access along the waterfront. So we understand that there's not an easement along the walkway there, and we did have a discussion with the city's attorney about that, and we thought that establishing a formal easement would be appropriate at this time, especially just based on the significant increase of activity on that site. We want to ensure that there's long-term preservation of public access to the waterfront area and the pathway.
That's specifically the boardwalk, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
So that has not been an easement legally? That's just been private property that the public has walked over?
That's our understanding. Yes.
I think it's a patchwork across the whole
It's,
length.
Because
of
you
it.
have the yacht club's got part of that. Right? The
it's,
Singapore Yacht Club.
it's part of the street license, the street end licenses where they can use the street ends for the docking of boats. And in order for that agreement, it was placed in the license agreement that they have to maintain access, but it was never formalized as an easement, which is really appropriate at this time.
And the weakness of that is if, for whatever reason, the street licensee chooses, there's only one, for example, as might be the case here, and that person or that licensee chooses not to renew the license, conceivably that opens up the boardwalk, which is nothing short of a nightmare. Sorry.
Sure. So number four would be to ensure that loading occur off of the Butler street end so that we weren't impacting the public right of way north of the building. Hours of operation, we had suggested a 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. Range for hours open to the public. It thought that was to be generally consistent with other businesses along the waterfront, but that's certainly open to the Planning Commission's discussion tonight. Next would be the construction staging shall not impact the right of way or prevent public access to the walkway. So we just want to ensure that when construction occurs, as in it may occur during the tourist season, if it extends into that far into next year. We just want to make sure that it doesn't have any significant impact on the right of way for pedestrians. And we want to ensure access to the walkway. And then lastly, just to ensure zoning compliance long-term with the, especially the rules for outdoor seating, which are zoning requirements that apply to this site development plan. The conditions on your last page, the formatting was a little bit affected, I think. So one of the conditions I believe is duplicated. I believe it's number 6, the last one.
And Dave, I did correct that on the PowerPoint presentation, so it is corrected if you're looking at that rather than the packet.
And we could probably move to that once we get into that part of the discussion, but we do overall recommend 7 conditions One of them's been addressed, so you could probably just narrow that down to the 6 then.
This is a very long motion. I think it's rather important to include the whole motion with the recommendations and then any other conditions that you would feel appropriate, but it is 3 pages of PowerPoint, so proposed.
Fair enough. That concludes your summary. Cindy?
Hmm?
Okay, we'll move on to the presentation by the applicant. If you choose, please identify yourself.
Hi, Jack with Niederveld. Yeah, David and Cindy did a very thorough review, so I don't want to duplicate what they've already said. Craig Smith, CEO of Redwater Group, is on the call as well. So if you have questions of him as far as hours of operation that they currently operate, what they plan to do here, it's a seasonal thing, obviously, because it's open air. So, winter, they're not going to be using this, but Craig could offer, what their hours of operation are, or your citizens here, you probably know what their hours are. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. We'll open the public hearing or the public comment section of the hearing for anyone choosing to so express themselves either in person or online. If you're online, please find a way to identify yourself so that we can recognize you and record you. Do you have a better screen than I do, Cindy, that has everybody, or is that it?
Yes, I do have everybody. I'm not seeing any raised hands right now. I do see that Craig Smith is on the line. If you have questions or discussion with him about hours of operation would be very appropriate. But I'm not seeing any raised hands.
Well, maybe we can deal with any of those comments during deliberations.
Yeah.
Makes more sense, I think. All right. Hearing no public comment, we'll close that portion of the public hearing and open our commission deliberation. Fire at will.
This is a question for Craig, because I don't know the answer. What are the hours currently, like for the outdoor patio at the Butler in the summertime?
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, currently we've not operated the Butler. We're just in the process of taking it over. So it will be new for us this next season. But the patio would be open from the time the restaurant opens, about 11 o'clock a.m. And the plan would be to close by 11 o'clock p.m. Our company has a number of restaurants in West Michigan, and we don't believe in late night hours and late night bars and operations. And so, we continue to stay consistent with the hours that are shown in the recommendation of being approximately 11 to 11.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I think that coincides with the ordinance we have about quiet time.
That's the same with the barges, right?
I recollect those same as what we have in
Or they have
place
to
for
go
the barge.
Close all the windows. I understand.
Anyone else? I have a question about the fire department review, which I haven't seen, but whatever it is. I wonder if there should be an extended provision in that, and maybe there is, and I just don't know it, regarding sort of a final approval as built, since we've come up with some things in the past where language was either misunderstood or misinterpreted or accidentally moved somehow. I, for one, would like to see that. If
The Michigan Township Services that does our building department services, they will not issue the certificate of occupancy until they get the go-ahead from the fire department.
After it's built or
After it's
when it's
built.
almost built. Thank you.
And just as an aside, it will be fully suppressed in accordance with NFPA 13. So that's the same standard that the barge had to meet.
And just so we talked briefly, it's not consequential, but the comment in the application related to emergency vehicle access to the new building that mentioned the expansive lawn in front of that, that's unacceptable for emergency vehicle access. The fire trucks will sink if they go on that. So as I say, I don't think it's consequential. The fire chief told me their plan to deal with any fire emergency on the new part of this construction would be to go over the top with the aerial ladder off of Butler Street where the fire connection is down near the river or the lake. But I told somebody I was going to say that, so I said it.
So the fire department has approved construction to begin, and that doesn't mean that they won't do a final inspection, because they will.
Oh, I'm sure they will. Forgive the pun, but they've been burnt before. Is there a rough timing? I mean, I know building timing is goofy, but nowadays,
Yeah, Craig could probably answer specifically when they plan to start construction, but I think the intent is to be open for when the season, they're coming into ownership of the establishment and want to have this available for the next good season for this kind of activity.
good, thank you.
They're planning to use the kitchen in the Butler for,
I'm sorry.
are they planning on using the kitchen that's inside the Butler currently?
Yeah, this building is just seating and restrooms, but all of the prep is happening and dishwashing and everything is happening inside the current building.
I have a question. Maybe I think you might be the logical person. What is the status of the ADA requirements with a structure like this? What is the status of that? Or what are the requirements
Yeah, so we have
on the first or the second floor?
second level, it's not ADA compliant. There's a set of stairs that gets up there, but we're not required to have ADA access to the second level. We have to provide a percentage of our seating that's ADA compliant, and the whole first level is ADA compliant. We have a ramp that goes from the existing sidewalk that gets people into that ground level.
But there's no requirement to have that on the second floor,
Correct.
according to the law. Okay, thanks.
Any other commission comments, deliberation?
The only question I would have is,
Feel
see the
free.
railing that's going to separate where the building is being proposed. Between the building at Cook's Park, it's just kind of like a railing. Since alcohol and that's going to be served, is railing sufficient? Okay.
And I think no different than like the places on the street,
Right, exactly.
the street, like in front of the Bode's or whatever.
I'm going to stay here because every time I start going that.
Yeah, feel free. We like the company.
This isn't a question. This is just kind of a comment and looking at how kind of lives have changed since COVID-19 and what the appeal of the pop-up patios was with people wanting to sit outside. I think this is a lovely structure and takes into consideration keeping the whole harbor open, but yet allowing people to see the beauty of it and be outside, because who knows when this is going to come back again and hit us, and we'll all have to be outside again. So nice job.
Thank you.
And as much as the Phelps owned it and he owns it or whatever, the Butler is really an asset of this city, a really public, appreciated, loved asset.
When me and my wife come on dates here, that's where we go.
I would agree with Chris and everyone else. I think it's a great addition, at this end, to be able to have that type of a structure, the 2-story with a view.
All right. We'll,
I'm surprised it's never been done before.
we'll entertain a motion for approval by whomever. Oops, sorry, Russ.
Sorry. So what is the process now this evening if the planning commission approves the site plan? That's the go-ahead, right?
That's the go-ahead with the first three conditions being done before construction permits are issued.
Okay.
The way it's written, I mean, this is just a suggestion. This is not carved in stone, so.
What I'm struggling with, and I'm not sure how to say this, is I am a bit alarmed by the scale, to be honest with you. Even though it's within zoning requirements, it is a shock to my system based on what it has been for a number of years, right? Small gazebo, picnic tables out on the lawn, you know, a simple rope fence around it. This is steroids, in my opinion. And frankly, I personally don't think it fits in with the I don't think it fits in with the district. I appreciate the attempt that's being made to, you know, fit in with the Butler architecture, the building itself. I'm just not comfortable with the scale. It just seems out of scale in the park. I know that there's no parking requirements associated with this development. However, I don't know what the current seating is in the current configuration, but I know it's not 300 and is this 312, Dave? Is that what the?
Total number of seats,
Yeah.
312.
Okay. I'm struggling with the scale with it, honestly, and the appropriateness to the site.
I guess
And
I mean, any change is going to an
Of course.
iconic structure is going to cause
of course,
a bit of dyspeptic results.
of
But
course.
when I looked at it, my mental comparison was to the barge.
Yep, that's exactly where I went with it.
And I mean, 2-story, indoor, outdoor, open sides on 3 sides, same as this. And I don't know the number of seats at the barge. I have no idea.
Around 175.
So, you know, is it bigger? Apparently, yes.
Yeah.
Is it? And I don't know I'm not sure that I guess under the review item of, you know, fitting into the site or whatever, that can be addressed if that's an issue.
I think I would defer to David on that question. From the best of my understanding, if something meets all of the standards,
Mhm.
you don't have a choice to say, no, we're not going to grant you permission because we don't like it.
Yeah, and
That's
But I'll defer to Dave on that.
because I know that this was the class that we were talking, the class that I had this spring
Mhm.
on the planning and zoning, they were very clear that as a member of the committee, it's not you don't vote based upon whether you like it or not. It's whether or
Right.
not it's compliant with all the rules and the ordinances that are in place. And given the fact that they're only using like 27% when they're allowed at 45% of the lot space, and they need everything else, then that's kind of how I'm looking at it.
and I understand that clearly. I have no other way to express my personal opinion on this.
That's all right.
I understand that as a role as a commissioner, that if it meets the zoning and it spells out as the zoning administrator has done very clearly in our paperwork, that we're compelled to follow the law, right? However, I am disappointed in just the immensity of this. It just seems out of scale for the site and I know things move forward. I just think that this is something that's it does take away from the attraction of the site, in my opinion. It does not allow a clear view to the water, which we currently have with the current. So that from a zoning standpoint, going back to the master plan, I think it detracts from that.
Did Historic weigh in on any of this?
Yes, they did.
I mean, I know they weighed in on the project specifically to,
Yes.
En masse.
Scale, mass, and siding.
What did they say about it?
You know, they nevertheless, they approved it.
They approved it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm. Well, I've thought of this when myself, but then I'm thinking, uh, where does this stand in regards to what couldn't be built, what can be built there in terms of the ordinances that we have, on the book, or the rules that we have on the books? Have you been able to look at that and do an analysis of that? My thought also goes to, if they had just wanted just a conventional addition, what does the ordinance, what do the regulations say, what is permissible?
Well, there could have been an addition to the building. Restaurants is a special land use in the zoning district. So if this were designated as a permitted use by rights, you'd have a much tougher time with discretionary review standards. So a by right use, if it meets zoning requirements, primarily dimensional requirements, in any other specific use requirements, it must be approved. With a special use designation, that does acknowledge that a special use may have operational characteristics or other building characteristics which could have a greater impact on adjacent properties or the area as a whole if not planned and designed properly. There's a bit more discretion when a use is considered to be special. So with that, you have to consider, how this is designed. Is it being done in a way that's more sensitive than it could otherwise be? And we did look at it a little bit in terms of what could be permitted here, either by right or just basically within the current dimensional requirements. And they could certainly do something much larger, much bulkier, or even something that wasn't open air like this. So in our opinion, when we looked at it, we thought, well, since they weren't maximizing the development potential of the site, and it was open air, we thought that it was more in line with some compromise between what they could do and what they proposed. So, but you do have some discretion because it is a special land use, more than you would if it was simply a by right permitted use. And you can consider issues of compatibility, appropriateness, and master plan consistency.
The other thing I immediately thought of was, well, it starts this way, and then, as good business people are, maybe, boy, this business is going so well, maybe we'll put some visqueen up, or we'll put some type of window structures or something to make it more. And so you end up with, say, a more permanent type of a structure, if not completely permanent. But even if that were to happen, from what you're saying, it still would be, I won't say a permitted use, but they would still have the right to do that. But
they could propose something like that. That would trigger HDC review, though. Any change, no matter how small it is, to the exterior appearance of the building, would need to go to the HDC for review and approval.
And I've talked, okay, now, well, I'm talking in terms of the eventual usage. I think you almost have to look at this as if they were building a standalone or an addition building, in a way, in my mind. Just, anyways, that's where I originally was kind of looking at this. I go, well, what is this, a regular conventional building, which this could end up being someday. And the other minor thing, really, that's quite major. Minor, and I've talked to Cindy about this, and I know the answer to this. We don't have any purview. We don't have anything to say about the aesthetics of it, the brick or the cement blocks or anything like that. I mean, I understand that that's probably so, that perhaps has been ceded to the historic commission. And I say, I'm old enough to remember when the Historic Commission came into being, and it kind of came into being, the impetus was really cement block buildings in Saugatuck. And we go, oh my gosh, this is not going to be good. And so it's just with interest and that the Historic Commission seems to be approving more cement block type things. I was kind of hoping this might be a little more decorative. But we don't, it just doesn't come within our jurisdiction, I guess.
Cindy, were you at the historic?
I was.
Was there public comment there?
There was not. There was lightly attended.
I have a question just for getting back to committee member Russ's comments about the scale. Can anybody tell me the area that's roped off now? It's roped off now. How would that compare to the size of the structure that's going up? Ah,
I think it's shown.
oh, good. I didn't open up the great big one.
Roughly in that same footprint.
Oh, five.
Yeah, that shows the actual, the current
Yeah,
footprint.
right, isn't it?
That's roughly the perimeter of the sidewalk that's going to go around like.
Down on the bottom here.
Yeah, I was.
But
So for clarification, Cindy, if they should go back, as Richard has said, and want to enclose this and make it a solid building, that would have to go through the HDC first and have to be compatible with those
And it would be
standards.
a change to the site plan, so it would have to come back here as well.
If I can just speak to that, the building architecture, if they can't really enclose this building like it is. There's no heating and cooling proposed for the building, no ductwork for that. So if it ever came to the point where, geez, we need more fully enclosed space, like this would be a tear down and redo, because that building, you can't just put walls on it and say, okay, we have an enclosed building now. It would be a major deal.
Thank you.
thank you, that's helpful.
Does the building have restrooms?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, you get nothing for free. I mean, you get one of the advantages of this, not unlike the barge. The upstairs at the second floor of the barge is a huge asset. I'm sure it is to the owner, but it's also to the general public. I mean, there are views from that deck that are unmatched in the city, up and down the river and so forth. You know, prior to this, however many seats are available on the second floor, those were view sheds, if you will, viewpoints that didn't exist. So, and you couldn't get them. In fact, arguably you couldn't get the ones on the first floor either, because I think the gazebo in that is set lower, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, it is a little bit.
So I don't want to sound like an apologist for this thing, but as I say, nothing comes without
Because you may lose a little bit if you're standing at the corner and looking across. You won't have as much of an open view as you currently do, but the number of people that will actually be able to benefit by having a better view, I think will be greater than the loss that you'll have by that small amount that is not open air. And I agree size-wise, if I was the owner, if I was Craig, I'd be the one that's concerned about having 320 additional seats when I have one kitchen and, one service area, trying to keep it full and making it work. But they've done the numbers, obviously, and that's not for us to say either, but.
Yeah, and they're a smart group. I'm sure they've thought through all of the logistical issues that may be associated with the larger spaces served. I go back to item 10, that in the location, size, intensity, and site layout, I think this is an intensive use for that spot, far more intensive than what was previously there, or what's currently there, excuse me. I think from a master plan standpoint, I think it does cut back on the site views to the water. That's been a continuous fight here in Saugatuck for as long as I can remember. Just the continued small erosion of clear sight lines to the water. And I don't object from a business standpoint. I object from a resident standing on the corner at the information booth and now seeing this. I believe that does detract from the master plan objectives. And I think going back to the actual zoning itself, that the location, size, and intensity, I don't think it meets it. I think it's more intense.
And just for clarification on that, when I read that, I took it to mean that in the location, size, and intensity of such operations, they will not be objectionable to nearby buildings by reason of noise. I saw that more of a limited, why you would have an objection to it, to the intensity pertaining specifically to noise, fumes, pollution, those types of things. I read it maybe more narrowly than you are, but I can see where you could interpret it your way too.
I'm also very surprised we have not had any public comment from the Singapore Yacht Club and any residents either. I think this is one of those a situation where the more people see this, the more consideration there can be. There's probably some other thoughts about this that haven't been heard.
I would also like to speak to that as a member of the Singapore Yacht Club. They have kept us completely informed of everything that's going on, to having meetings about it. So,
Excellent.
I won't speak for them, but I just want you to know that that information has been out there and provided to all of the owners of people that had slips.
Do we feel like there's a adverse impact on Cook Park?
I do
Mhm.
personally. I think it does.
I can appreciate what they've done. They've done what they could to mitigate that by leaving some setback there. Could have been more right up there.
There's a stake on that property line. And it's the, whatever, the north-south property line, there's a stake right along the sidewalk going south into the Butler. So you can see it. Depending on which way you want to look at it, about how much public land there is there, which is actually more than I thought.
Still really large. I was surprised to walk it tonight.
Well, I will entertain, unless there's further discussion or deliberation, I will entertain a motion or motions regarding the application.
I'd be willing to try it.
Well, if you're going to use that motion, be prepared.
Okay.
Get your glasses ready.
So you have to be somebody on that side of the room. who can see the screen.
I gotta find my notes.
Are you accepting public comment?
Oh, public comment.
Close the
No.
public hearing?
I did not close the public hearing because we haven't taken action yet. It's within the public hearing.
You're talking about the public comment section? We have to take we have a public hearing right now.
Yes.
Which is different than public comment.
Right.
So if you did not close the public hearing, then people can still comment on this project.
So that's fine. I mean, it's out of order, but it's fine. because you don't have to close within the public, oh, I'm sorry, the deliberation is outside. So you're right. Absolutely. Okay. All right. Whoever was making the comment, please go ahead.
Okay, I think one thing you haven't mentioned at all is the impact of,
Could this person please identify themselves?
my name is Michael Economist. I live at 716 Park Street. One of the things you have not
Thank you.
discussed here at all is the impact of additional traffic in the city for 320 people coming to the restaurant. There's no parking, okay? There's no additional parking lots anywhere. This summer, my wife and I plan to come into town, go to a restaurant. And we drove around for a half an hour before we could find a parking spot and decided to pack up and go home and have dinner at our home. 320 people in addition to what's already there. The traffic, people coming, will be pulling it on Butler Street next to the restaurant entrance and dumping off passengers and then trying to go and find a parking spot. 320 people is going to bring a lot of impact into the traffic of the city. And it's also going to have a negative effect on the other businesses because of the big impact. That means there's less available parking and the situation is critical right now.
Okay. Any other comments? Positive, negative, neutral, whatever?
Chair, I would just add thank you for the public comment as well. That was the same thought that I had, even though there's not a parking requirement for this. I have no doubt that this group will fill those seats. I mean, they're very good at what they do. They have very attractive properties. So my concern about this has nothing to do with the business and with the attraction. It is going to be an intensive use for that site. It's going to increase the intensity of that site from where it is today. And I think that the additional parking, I hate to use a cliche, but if you build it, they're going to come. This company knows how to attract people to their properties.
Well, I think the parking issue is an issue for the entire community. So whether you have this unit, I appreciate the public comment and thank you for making it. But also, when I think of 320 people coming in to have drinks or meals at this facility, I think it's actually beneficial to the rest of the business owners because chances are they may go shopping before or after they go into that venue. Because there's been many times where you do come downtown, the Mermaid's full, the barge is full, all the places that you can sit and watch the water are full. So having an additional 300 seats could actually allow more people to benefit by being able to enjoy the riverfront.
I think you also have to register that however many parking spaces are now occupied by pop-up patios. All of those parking spaces are gone, but the issue as to so what was never raised and never dealt with and hasn't garnered much public sentiment one way or the other, I don't think. And if it has garnered it one way, I guess it's that people seem to enjoy it or whatever. So parking is, as you say, parking is an intrinsic problem in this town. To the gentleman, I appreciate that comment too. And I've been in exactly the situation he describes. For me, going home wasn't so far, but you know, I think to the extent we can acquaint people, there's always parking at the high school, always. And to the extent those signs can be made better, more effective, to just, you know, come up here, free parking, free parking, free parking, and get the interurban or whatever it takes. But that's a city problem. That's not a province of ours to deal with. The city council, or you're not going to be on that anymore. You'll be able to deal with it on the city council. Okay, now I'm going to close the public hearing at whatever time it is, 8:04 or something like that. And we'll proceed either to continue deliberation or to motions as you see fit.
I'm ready to give it a shot. Yeah. I move to conditionally approve the special land use and site plan, last revised September 23rd, 2021, including the plans and supplemental materials provided by the applicant for the Butler Restaurant located at 40 Butler Street. This motion conditionally approves an approximately 5,320 square foot, 2-storage open air restaurant building expansion, 2,660 square foot footprint. This motion is based on the documented findings included within the staff report dated October 15th, 2021, provided by the city zoning administrator, as well as the following findings of city administrator. These comments are to be incorporated into the record and are adopted as part of the planning commission's finding of fact. The remaining items on ongoing conditions of approval are secure a historic district. Am I reading these right? Secure a historic district commission certificate of appropriateness for any applicable change to building materials and site lighting. Secure the fire department approval of the site plan for access and emergency service response. Record an easement subject to approval by the city attorney, which allows for the continued unrestricted public access along the waterfront walkway, including the construction, maintenance, and alteration of the same, with an easement area as described consistent with the current walkway size, plus reasonable area for the construction and maintenance of the same. Loading and delivery shall occur only on the Butler street end on the west side of the street. The hours open to the public shall be from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. Construction related staging shall only occur on site and not within the city's right of way, and construction shall not prevent public access to the walkway. Compliance with all other zoning requirements shall be maintained. Period.
Is there a second?
I will second it.
We vote this one?
We can do a voice vote. I mean, we can do a roll call for this one.
Please call the roll for that, Cindy.
Peterson?
Yes.
Mans?
Yes.
Van Meter?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes.
Gardner?
No.
Fox?
Yes.
Gaunt? Yes. Motion carries.
At this point, there is no old business unless we want to review your,
No, actually, I was, thank you very much. Talking about the public notification of zoning changes and so forth. I've not had a chance to meet and discuss some of those options. So it is something we'll get done over the winter. Yeah, I got a few things going.
there are no communications, there are no officers reporting or committees reporting. Again, an opportunity for public comment, including those on Zoom, 3 minutes. Identify yourself if you care to comment. Okay, Cindy, or
I'm not seeing any hands raised.
it's flashing around. That's why I don't know if that means somebody's trying it or.
Oh, it's probably me, just going, looking through all the people that are in the meeting to see if they have their hand up or if they have unmuted themselves and wanting to speak. And I don't see any.
Fair enough. I will close the public comment section then and entertain, before I close the whole thing,
Oh, yeah.
in reverse order of, if not importance, certainly joy this evening, we introduce our new commission member, Bobby Gaunt, a longtime, highly valued, very accomplished citizen of Saugatuck, delightful person. And we introduce David Jurassic, our consultant from, I forget the name of the firm, but they're in Holland, and you obviously sound like you know what you're doing, so we appreciate you being here very much. I know Cindy appreciates you doing because some small part of her load has been lifted from her capable shoulders, so good to have you here. And now I will entertain a motion for, what? What did I do?
Vice chair, that's on the minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry, where did I see? Oh, there it is. Okay, yes. We we have been operating without a vice chair for this group. And it's, in the past, it's proven to be important when when the chair couldn't be there or was sick or whatever. So it's a good thing to have. So we are open for nominations for vice chair of the planning commission.
The only comment that I have is that if Mr. Gardner is going to be elected to council, the chairman cannot be the council member. So he would have to be not included as a nominee for vice chair.
So there.
That's.
What are you gonna say about that? So you can, now you can feel free to get even with somebody by nominating.
Well, I mean, if that eventuality were to occur, it seems like it could be adjusted for, but.
I think
Well, he's gonna be elected.
It's gonna be.
There's only 3 running.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
And even I could try and put those odds.
I guess I better not worry about my absentee ballot.
No, you don't have.
That I've been saying, I gotta get that in.
All we needed was one vote.
And we don't have any write-ins as of today. So.
You got over that hurdle too.
But chances are good.
Chances are pretty good.
Yeah. I'm putting money down on it.
Well, yeah. Like
Still
we say,
looking,
if you're
still
playing-
looking for a nomination, folks.
Stephen, I'm gonna nominate you.
Second.
Oh, see, he wasn't even paying attention. That's what it'll get
That's the
you. You
way
turn
to do
away
it.
and you're gonna get,
Call the motion.
Steve Mans.
Are you okay with this?
I'm probably one of the newer members, but sure.
Well,
Good.
we have more newer members than older members, so that's a good balance.
Seasoned by now.
Yeah, really. Well, not as seasoned as you, Rich, but
Well, I'm beyond seasoned.
Mike, did you make that motion?
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you.
we need a second.
Seconded by Peterson.
Any more nominations?
Yeah, anyone else?
Move nominations.
Hard enough getting this far. Okay, those in favor of Steve Mans as vice chair of the planning commission signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously.
We're gonna count on you being at every meeting.
What's that?
We're gonna count on you being at every meeting.
No,
Take out key man insurance.
only one way to learn this, and that's just like sit here and make the mistakes and have Cindy glare at you. Okay, we'll entertain a motion for adjournment at 8:12.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of adjourning at 8:12 PM signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. We are adjourned.
Thank you.